Hello everyone, this is Yodalf and welcome to this technical Minecraft video. Today we are going to discuss village bug and most especially the linking bugs. Like, I think if you're playing on a realm or multiplayer, you most likely have already seen that is the bug when villagers stop linking to anything. So I'm going to show you what's going on in the game when this happens, and hopefully how to mitigate the bugs. So let's start with some explanation. So first of all, I'm going to run a local Bedrock server. This could be done in like single player too, but I will not be able to show you the data. So I'm running the server 1.14.20, which is the latest available version. So I'm just going to run it with some debug script that allows me to display some data while the server is running, data about villagers and PoE systems. So it's starting, creative, peaceful. Let's wait a little bit. It's a bit slow because I'm running it in a debugger. Server is started. Let's start. There. So obviously I'm missing some villager eggs that I'm going to need right away. So let's start first by discussing POI detection. So what we usually think is that a villager is responsible for linking by itself and to find POIs by itself, and some people even think it's like pathfinding related, which is like complete nonsense in Bedrock Edition. What's actually happening is that a villager actually every time he's ticked is emitting a request for PoE scan in 32 by 32 by 8 cube. It is requesting that to something that is called in the game village manager. So if I can show you real quick, I'm going to make a villager here and already uses a scan. So now let me show you real quick. You see on the right here, so you have a query that was done on 39, 8 and 7. So let's go back to the game. As you can see, it's right there, so it's right at where the villager was. Then what's going to happen is that it's going to do some scanning. So this is like 32 by 32 by 8 is 8,100 and something bit blocks, but since it's a bit much to scan in one go, I think they splitted the scan in 1024 chunks. So the first scanning value are at 0 because it's not initialized yet when I print it, and the second one is actually the second run. So let me show you real quick in game what's going on. So the game is actually going to scan first those blocks, then those, etc., until it's finished. And once all the blocks have been scanned, the request is considered as executed and is actually removed from the list. So how does the game handle those requests? Because if you have multiple villagers, you obviously can have multiple requests at the same time. So how does it handle that? So let's say you add like one villager on each of these blocks. I'm going to use color to explain how it works. So the red villager will first do a red query, and then you will have an orange, yellow, lime, and green. The game is going to process the query starting by the last one that was done. So it will try to scan for this, and then for this, then for this, etc. All that works quite well, actually, if you don't suddenly unload the area, because it only processes the query if a player is inside the region of the original block of the scan. Which means that if I take some obsidian, and I'm going to try to demonstrate it. Let's say we're going to have to make more. So I'm going to add a bunch of villagers to spam query. And as you can see on the right of the screen, there is a lot of steam going on. And each one of these villagers is emitting a query that is processed one at a time. So let's stop at, like, I'm at 32. As you can see, it's going crazy on the right side. Now, what happened when I go there? When I go in the nether, as you can see, everything pauses on the right. So let's analyze quickly what's going on here. So as you can see, I had a request to scan for 14, 4, and 13. But where the game is actually scanning 16, okay, so that's the first part, second part, and third part, but it's stopped in the middle of it. So that means that some queries in there are not actually done yet. And it's even worse than that, because as you can see, this query was like for 15, 4, and 13. But the game is starting at 8, 0, and -1, which doesn't correspond to that query. Which means that that query that was added after another one changed the boundaries of that query. It's actually pretty nasty. So I'm going to TP. I think I had another portal set up somewhere on there. Okay, so I have another portal here, with another area, and I'm going to add some villagers if I can. Why can't? Oh, I think the server I disconnected. Yes. So let me just log back in real quick. Okay, it's scanning like crazy. And as you can see, oh yes, it's actually quite fun. Not this one. Not this one. This one, please. So what you can see, okay, so the game kicked me after I put the villagers. So I'm going to kill those villagers real quick, and I'm going to actually quit to pause it. And as you can see, when I arrived in the other place with new villagers that emitted new query, I replaced the boundary of the query. That means that the game is actually trying to scan from the first village that we were in to the new village that we are now. As you can see, it's scanning places I didn't go. This is 2000, etc., etc. And it will actually, if I hop back in, if I can hop back in, okay, it's scanning. Please let me in. So I have some time, so I'm going to get one villager. And as you can see, I've killed the villager, but it didn't remove the query. So I'm going to put a bed, and as you can see, it doesn't link to the bed because it actually can't see yet. And see, if you take a look at the right part of the screen, the game is actually scanning 4,000. We are at 8,000. So if we wait a little bit, we are going to see that this villager will end up linking because the query will have scanned 8,000 blocks. So that's one of the bugs. It's not all of the bugs, but it's one of the bugs. That the game actually scanned 8,000 blocks or n,000 blocks, because I went at 8,000, but if I went at 50,000, it would have scanned 50,000 blocks. And we're still scanning 7,000. As you can see, it can take a lot of time, and that can explain just a little bit why your villagers don't scan, and it should. Oh, and voila, it's linked, because the game actually went from 0,0 to 8,000 to scan for POIs. So that's one of the bugs. Now there are other bugs that can be actually displayed. So I'm going to try to replicate it, but I'm going to actually okay, so I'm going to put a few villagers because it's going to spam the system. And I'm going to use TP. You can obviously do that just by going through the nether, and so you have some scanning and something like that. So there's another bug. The fact that there is a limit in the amount of queries that can be in the system at the same time, and that limit is 64, which means that if you have, like, I don't know, a very big trading hall like this one with like 80 villagers, you will get some villager will never have a chance to actually submit a query. And that even worse is that it's going to saturate the system, which means that if you leave the area and go to another place, of if someone in the realm loads a trading hall and quit by going to the nether or log out at the trading hall, it will most likely lock up. And as you can see on the right, you have my villagers emitting queries, but no scanning is happening. There is no scanning, so I can put as many beds as I want. Nothing will happen, and those will be locked up and will never ever find those POIs, because the game is still trying to process the queries that at the other part of the game that is not loaded. So that's really like the main issue that people have. There are ways to lock up your villagers with a racing condition. Let's say those one emit a query, you load out the area, but the query is not finished, so it's still there. You load up another village that will add up a lot of requests above it, and you come back here, and this query for this block is buried in under all the other queries of the other village. And then this block will never be able to be processed. But there is an easy fix for that, is to move the villagers one block over, because this block is kind of cursed and this one will not be. This is not the case in this direction. Like here we are basically screwed. We can't do much to fix it. Actually, I have a solution for that, but at this point you can't really do anything. What I'm going to do is go back here. So if you go to the nether, you will lock up everything. But what happens if I take a step back and unload the villagers? As you can see, I have scanning going on now because I'm outside of simulation distance, and all the scanning is done but no new queries are done. And there you go, no new queries are done. So the game has done scanning and is now clean. So if I go back to there, those will scan and immediately you see they're linked up. So that's a way to prevent this bug, is to remove all the nether portal from the simulation distance of your village and never log out when you are in range of a village. So really what's breaking POI detection is the fact that the POI request is not removed when the player is not around. If you remove the request when the player is not there, it will make space for new queries to be made by another player somewhere else. And that alone would fix a lot of things with POI detection. Not all of them. The fact that to scan multiple thousand blocks wouldn't be fixed by that and would require much more work, but this alone is easy to do and should fix most of the linking issues. And for us players that actually can't modify the code to fix it, the best way for me would be to remove all your portals and never go through portals when you have loaded villages. Just put your portals 64 block out just to unload, to make sure you have unloaded all your villagers. And maybe if you have a large trading hall, just like put some sign in saying wait 1 minute here. Because as you can see, scanning everything takes a lot of time. And if you leave the area now, you won't have fixed anything. You will just have removed a lot of things, but you won't have fixed, and now it would be fixed. So as you can see, for a large trading hall, you would have to wait a lot. So yeah, my recommendation is really remove the portals, put them at least 5 chunks away, and maybe if you have any linking issue in another part of the world where this was loaded, go back outside of simulation distance from your trading hall, wait a little bit for the scanning to go out. Obviously you can't see them, so you will have to guess. So maybe wait like 1 minute or 2 and then go to the nether. There is really no other way to fix, for us to go around that bug. So that's it for today. And developers, if you're watching this, if you want to discuss this bug with me, if you want to talk about ideas on how to make this system better or more efficient or less intensive for the server, because like my CPU is at 33%, just loading those 80 villagers, you can contact me on Discord. There will be a link in the description. And of course, if you have seen this video and if you have questions about it, you can contact me through Discord. Okay, thank you for watching and bye bye.